I'm Mr. James from Charm City Karate, and I got a question for you guys. If buying a Yugo or buying a Maserati cost the same amount of money, which one would you buy? You'd buy the Maserati. Okay, if you could get a double-wide trailer home or a 30-room Donald Trump kind of mansion for the same amount of money, which one would you get? Get the Donald Trump. If you could get an inflatable raft or a 300-foot yacht for the same amount of money, which one would you get? You'd get the yacht. Last one. You get a drive-through Happy Meal or a 7-course meal at a 5-star world-class restaurant for the same price. Which one would you get? Yeah, you'd get that world-class meal. Okay, so why am I asking you this? Because given the choice, if the price is the same, people will always take the bigger one. Now, what does that have to do with martial arts and self-defense? Here's what it has to do. Our society has made the violence of hitting somebody and shooting somebody the same expense. And that is why kids are shooting each other and people are shooting each other instead of getting into fist fights. You think I'm crazy? Hold on. When my dad was a kid, they used to get into fights, okay? Not like all the time, but that was how arguments were settled. People who were really mad at each other, they would get into fist fights. The cops would come, they would break it up. They would give them the, "Hey, you kids, stop this fighting." Send them home. Or maybe take them home if it would have been a really bad fight. Maybe, give them a stern talking to. If they were a little older, like maybe 17 or 18, maybe they'd spend the night in jail, cool off. Jail, not prison. Okay, now, that was it. It was over. If, on the other hand, you had a knife or a gun, that was huge. You were in doo-doo, all right? Not only did that escalate things way up, and you were going to get prosecuted, probably go to prison. Your parents were embarrassed and humiliated. All your friends thought you were a total punk. It was totally ridiculous, okay? You are now a bad guy. Okay. When I was in grade school, maybe even middle school, kids still got into fights. It just happened, You'd go to the principal's office, you'd get yelled at. Maybe your parents would get called and you'd have to go home for the rest of the day. Yeah, by the time I was done middle school, you started getting suspended. It was like a 3-day go home. All through high school, it was about the same. There were some kids I knew, I won't say we were proud of them, but there were some kids I knew who would occasionally use the 3-day suspension as like a quick vacation. They would start a fight just because they needed a couple of days off. But still, you get suspended for a couple of days. And as long as it wasn't a regular thing for you, nobody thought you were a bad guy. They just, you got into a fight, you were punished, it was over. If you're one of those kids that got suspended regular, you're a bad kid. But again, as long as you weren't caught with a weapon, it was the end of it. It's just a fight. A weapon got you expelled. You went to one of those schools afterwards. By the time I was done high school, they had started expelling people for fistfights. So it seemed a little strange to me. You know, what if they were going to expel you for a fistfight? What were they going to do if you had a weapon? They didn't have anywhere to make it worse. Now, they have these zero tolerance policies where if a kid fights at all, even if it's fighting back, somebody's going to beat them up, and they fight back, they're expelled. You're going to expel a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old for fighting back. Can't hit. Not at all. Okay. Do you really believe that a 7 or 8-year-old has any grasp of the enormity of what's happening at that age? Of how big of a deal that is to get expelled when some kid's punching them and they say stop and they hit them back. There's no possible way they get that. And to have a punishment that is so big that the person being punished can't understand it is ridiculous. Okay, it's like putting somebody that's mentally challenged to death for shoplifting. All right. But here's the thing. The way it used to be was you had fist fights down here and weapons up here. And then what they've done is they've brought fist fights up. And there was nowhere for weapons to go. Okay? So you had punishment for weapons, punishment for a fist fight. They brought punishment for fist fights up, and there was nowhere for punishment for weapons to go. So what happened? What happened is that all the kids that couldn't fight or just wanted to be violent realized that there was no point to maybe getting embarrassed or getting beat up in a fight when they were going to get the same punishment for fighting as they would for shooting somebody or stabbing somebody. Okay? Remember, if the cost is the same, you're going to take the bigger one. Right? So, why take the Happy Meal if that 5-star meal costs the same? So rather than risk getting beat up by that kid at school, you go home and you get the gun and you come back and you shoot him. They're going to expel you either way. Oh. No point just jumping him after school and beating him up. They expel you for that. They expel you for shooting him. If you shoot him, you don't risk getting beat up. All they're going to do is expel you. Oh. See, because they're the same. And the way the brain works, if they're the same, you take the big one. Now, I understand that the whole idea behind zero tolerance policy was to stop bullying. But it didn't work, did it? No. Because bullies, A, don't listen to rules, and B, they're really good at making the rules work for them. What do bullies do? Bullies work the system. They know that you're not allowed to hit them or you'll get in trouble, right? You're going to get expelled. So what do? They wait until the teacher's looking at the chalkboard. They reach over. They smack Johnny in the head. Johnny turns around, ready to do something about it. And they go, Miss Johnson. And Miss Johnson turns around in time to see Billy ready to do something to the bully. Now Billy is caught looking like the bad guy, and the bully is staring at the teacher. Oh, that didn't work too good, did it? No. And the other thing that the zero tolerance policy has done is taken the few kids that would normally stand up to the bullies and maybe be able to put them in their place and effectively taken them out of the game because they want to obey the rules and not fight back. So the only ones that are still fighting are the bullies. You got these normal kids all getting beat up until they can't take it anymore. And then, because the cost is the same, they take the bigger one. They don't have a release valve anymore. When I was a kid, you could punch somebody, you get into a fight, you activate that release valve. At this lower level, you get in a little bit of trouble. But it was worth it. Okay? Some kid keeps picking on you every day, you just can't take it anymore, you get into a little bit of a fight, it's over, he stops picking on you, everything's cool. They don't have that release valve anymore. There's nowhere for it to go. It keeps building and building and building until they buy the bigger one because it costs the same as the little one. Why buy the little one? So there you go. Keep it in mind. If it all costs the same, people are going to buy the bigger one. Just my 2 cents on why violence has escalated to crazy levels. I'm Mr. James from Charm City Karate. Have a great day.